to demonstrate exactly how severe domestic violence crimes are within our community. And the research questions that I will attempt to answer for all of you tonight are, first, what is domestic violence? And also, second, what are the coping methods and styles that victims of domestic violence will utilize? Alarming statistics of the crime itself is that 30% of female murders actually are resulted from domestic violence abuse. In 2010 alone, there was 84,767 reported forcible rapes according to the Uniform Crime Report. These are only reported forcible rapes, so we can only assume that since this is among the most unreported crime, that number is actually higher. Also, post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD, occurs at a rate of 74 to 92% in the victims of domestic violence. If you listen, I'll tell you my story. This is a picture of a 6-year-old girl. The video that I will be showing next is actually of the 6-year-old girl making a 911 call during a dispute between her parents. She has 2 younger sisters. One is an infant and the other one is 4 years old that you will hear about in the video. And if you would like, some of you may want to close your eyes. I know the video is not very loud, so you might not be able to hear it. If you do close your eyes, try and visualize yourself actually as this 6-year-old girl who is making this call.
Okay, don't start. We're going to police. Okay, now, where's your mother at right now?
She's in the room riding with them. Okay, could you use the room?
Yeah, they're on their way. I'll keep you on the line until they get there. Okay, is your front door open?
Oh, no.
Okay, then go and walk in. Come back to the house with the officers. Come in.
Okay.
Come on, thanks.
We just knocked my sister out.
What's this already knocked out?
My little sister.
You're
Here.
what's the matter?
Nothing happened. Just like family. Wait, I'm going to go to heaven, please.
Okay, the police are on their way, okay? Hello? Lisa? The police are on their way, okay?
My daddy's got the baby now.
Yes, where is he at now?
What?
Lisa, where is he? Hello?
That girl is now 24 years old. Her and her siblings did live through the violence that did occur in the household. She herself was actually in a domestic relationship. She has 2 girls of her own. Those girls were taken from her, put into foster care due to the domestic violence relationship. But now she does have them back. She is in treatment for the violent abuse as a child and that she experienced as an adult, and is living a very productive, healthy lifestyle now. The first research question that I have is, what is domestic violence? I categorize domestic violence into 3 different categories. The first is physical assault. As you can see from the picture, this would be an example of physical assault that somebody would experience. Physical assault can consist of burning, choking, hitting, pushing, throwing down the stairs, anything along those lines is going to be considered physical assault. Emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is not one that first comes to mind for many people when they're considering domestic violence. Emotional abuse will consist of phrases being said to somebody such as, "You're worthless," "You have no friends," "You're ugly," "You're fat," repeatedly over and over again, usually in efforts to belittle the victim. Make them feel like they have nobody, make them feel like they have no family or friends around. That would all constitute emotional abuse. Sexual assault is any sexual act that is forced upon another person. This can also be forced into reproductive decisions unintentionally. It can also constitute, sexual assault is usually known as a rape from another person, as well as sexual assault consists of in general, any type of sexual coercion on somebody else. The second research question was how victims cope with the abuse. There's a balance system. On one end, you've got emotion-focused coping, and on the other hand, you have problem-focused coping. Emotion-focused coping is when a victim will attempt to neutralize the emotions that they are feeling from the either ongoing assault or previous assault. Problem-focused coping is when a victim will focus on the problem itself and trying to neutralize that problem by escaping from it, or trying to calm down the offender, or well, I'm just going to walk away and I'm going to ignore what he's saying to me. Where on the other hand, emotion-focused is, well, I'm just going to sit and I'm going to focus on what exactly I did wrong, or I'm not going to cry in front of them, and I'm not going to do anything like that. So that's the difference between emotion-focused and problem-focused coping. Also, on one end, you have interpersonal coping styles as well as intrapersonal coping styles. Interpersonal is any type of coping that occurs within like a community. Interpersonal could consist of seeking counseling treatment for therapy, or on the other hand, intrapersonal would be seeking out friends and wanting to talk with their friends about the abuse that they've experienced. A study done by Smith, Murray, and Coker in 2010 studied interpersonal and intrapersonal as well as in combination with emotion-focused and problem-focused coping styles for victims. What they actually found was even though they tried to categorize the victims into one specific category, they found that the victims actually utilized all 4 different types of coping styles. On the top, friend support is emotion-focused, interpersonal coping methods, where on the other hand, you have keeping hope, which is going to be intrapersonal, emotion-focused coping styles. Keeping hope, they're trying to neutralize the emotions of the abuse, as well as it being intrapersonal, focusing more on themselves and not outside agency resources. And then the friend support is also the interpersonal, which is seeking outside assistance, but focusing more on neutralizing the emotions. And then you also have seeking shelter, and that's going to be a problem-focused interpersonal coping style, where they are going to attempt to eliminate the problem by leaving the situation, as well as it's being interpersonal because they are seeking an outside agency resource. Standing my ground is going to be a problem-focused, intrapersonal type of coping method. Because it is problem-focused, they are standing their ground, they are trying to neutralize the actual problem. If I stand my ground, then maybe he won't do this. If I'm going to stand up to him. And because it is intrapersonal, it is focusing more on the individual themselves instead of an outside resource agency. And in the center you have coping, and I wanted to, by doing this, I wanted to, since the results of this study actually concluded that victims of abuse will usually utilize different categories of each, emotion-focused and problem-focused, as well as interpersonal and intrapersonal of all of the different categories. The next picture I'm going to show you after this slide is going to be trying to show the severity of domestic violence. In the beginning of my presentation, I wanted to explain to you exactly how severe domestic violence crimes are, and that was the purpose of my research study, as well as what is domestic violence, and also victim coping styles. Just to reiterate back to the alarming statistics that explain the severity of this crime, 30% of female murders are resulted from domestic violence abuse. Post-traumatic stress disorder, which is going to impact the victim coping styles, occurs at a rate of 74 to 92% of the victims of domestic violence. As well as in 2010 alone, there was 84,767 reported forcible rapes. And once again, we can only assume that number to be much higher. Those are only the reported ones. A quote I found on Gandhi explains how the long-term reactions of abuse and how they will stay with the victim if not properly treated with different coping methods. I object to violence because when it appears to do good, the good is only temporary. The evil it does is permanent. In this next picture I'm going to show you, I want to attempt to show you exactly how permanent this damage can be and and if you can only imagine what type of emotion this person has to feel on a daily basis as they remember that this is what actually happened to them. The picture I am showing you is actually a rape victim. It was her and her friend that were going to a college party, and this is what happened to them. So once again, this picture, it is very disturbing, and I apologize if you do have a weak stomach, but it does attempt to answer my purpose of my research, which was to show the severity of domestic violence and how it affects the victims. Or comments?
I think you did a great job on the way you showed the interpersonal and the interpersonal, showing how it's not just one area that happens in domestic violence that is, grouped together. Because sometimes people feel, it's personal and they don't want to reach out, or maybe that they do want to reach out but they don't know how. But that is ways, different ways of coping that has to do with each area.
That study was actually very interesting because in the beginning they thought that they could categorize the victims into one of those 4 categories. And at the end they found out that they actually utilized different coping methods from each category. So they really couldn't categorize them well.
Did you ever run any statistics that this was an intergenerational problem that reoccurs with the same families and same individuals?
I did not come across that.
And I knew you mentioned the one case, but I just didn't know if they had.
Great.
What is the percentage of children from domestic violence growing up and getting into domestic violence situations themselves, like your 6-year-old?
Do not know that answer, but I can look it up and find it for you.
Tommy.
Yeah, she would ask.
You're going to do well at your next juncture. I appreciate this is very informative, and it drew out emotion, of course. Every time I heard this, I don't like to hear this, and you know that. I have a problem with hearing it. We just got in here from, I can't stand to hear kids being victimized, but that was very good.
Did I add the photo? I had a reason for it.
I see
I
that.
was just debating on
I
it.
see that.
I'm like, oh, forget it, I'll go for it.
Good move.